Nobody ever thought this story would come from him. Not from a fan account, not from social media speculation, not from a so-called insider chasing clout. This came from someone who has stood next to Jimin in real life. Someone who watched him closely, not through a screen, but from just a few steps away. Someone whose job was to protect Jimin's safety, not comment on his personal life. And yet, when he finally spoke, his words shocked everyone. According to people who were present, Jimin's bodyguard openly showed full support for Jimin and Jungkook's relationship. Not halfway, not carefully, not with hesitation, 100%. No confusion, no mixed message, just full, clear support. What surprised fans even more was not just the support itself, but how personal it sounded. He didn't speak like someone repeating rumors. He spoke like someone who had seen Jimin's happiness with his own eyes. Someone who truly believed that Jungkook is the person who makes Jimin feel safe, calm, and genuinely happy. And when he said he hoped Jimin could stay happy with Jungkook until old age, everything changed. For many fans, this wasn't just another moment. This felt different. It felt real. Because a bodyguard doesn't benefit from lying. A bodyguard doesn't need attention. A bodyguard is trained to stay silent. So why speak now? People close to the situation say that this bodyguard has been around Jimin long enough to notice patterns that cameras never catch. The small changes in Jimin's mood, the way his energy shifts depending on who he's with, the difference between polite smiles and real laughter. And according to him, the happiest version of Jimin appears when Jungkook is nearby. That statement alone sent waves through the fandom. Fans immediately began connecting dots. Moments that once felt subtle suddenly made sense. The relaxed posture, the natural smiles, the way Jimin unconsciously moves closer to Jungkook in crowded spaces. These weren't things staged for cameras. These were habits, and habits don't lie. The bodyguard reportedly mentioned that Jimin becomes calmer around Jungkook. Not quieter, but calmer. Like someone who doesn't feel the need to protect himself emotionally. Like someone who knows he's safe. That's not something you fake. What made fans pause was the bodyguard's tone. He didn't sound dramatic. He didn't exaggerate. He spoke simply, almost casually, as if what he was saying was obvious to anyone who paid attention. To him, Jimin and Jungkook being close wasn't a question, it was a fact. And then came the moment that turned everything upside down. He admitted that he personally ships Jimin and Jungkook. Not jokingly, not as fan service, not as a passing comment. He meant it. For fans, hearing the word ship from someone like that felt unreal, because this isn't someone who spends time on Twitter threads or TikTok edits. This is someone whose world is schedules, security checks, and real-life interactions. Which means his opinion wasn't built from clips, it was built from lived experience. People who overheard the conversation say he smiled when talking about them. Not a professional smile, but a warm one, like someone talking about a relationship he genuinely believes in. He reportedly said that Jungkook brings out Jimin's soft side, while Jimin gives Jungkook emotional balance. That together, they look like two people who understand each other without needing many words. Fans instantly remembered countless moments where Jimin and Jungkook communicated through looks alone. No talking, no explaining, just understanding. And suddenly, those moments didn't feel accidental anymore. What also stood out was how protective the bodyguard sounded of Jimin's happiness. He didn't talk about fame, he didn't talk about public image, he talked about Jimin as a person. He said Jimin deserves happiness. Simple as that. And in his eyes, that happiness is clearly tied to Jungkook. That statement alone sparked emotional reactions across the fandom. Many fans said they felt validated, not because they needed proof, but because someone from Jimin's real life confirmed what they had felt for years. Others said it felt comforting, like reassurance that behind the scenes, Jimin is not lonely, that he has someone who truly understands him. And then there were fans who said this changed how they rewatch old content. Moments that once seemed small now feel loaded. A hand resting a second longer, a shared laughter after a stressful moment, Jimin leaning into Jungkook when he's tired. All of it suddenly feels intentional. The Bodyguard's words also sparked discussion about how much staff members actually notice. Fans often assume that idols' private lives are completely hidden, but this moment suggests otherwise. When you're around someone every day, you notice things. You notice who they smile with, you notice who they look for first, you notice who makes hard days easier. And according to this Bodyguard, Jungkook is that person for Jimin. He didn't say it in a dramatic way, he didn't build a story, he simply stated what he saw. And sometimes, simple truth is more powerful than any theory. What makes this even more impactful is the timing. With Jimin and Jungkook growing individually, yet always finding their way back to each other, fans feel like this confirmation came at a moment when many were already emotionally invested. It didn't start anything new, it reinforced what was already there. The idea that this Bodyguard hopes Jimin stays happy with Jungkook until old age hit especially hard, because that's not a short-term wish, that's not about a phase, it's about a lifetime. Fans described it as a blessing. Not from a fan, not from a company, but from someone who sees Jimin as a human being first. As news of this spread, fans noticed how different this felt compared to typical rumors. There was no exaggeration, no dramatic framing, just quiet confidence. And sometimes, quiet confidence speaks the loudest. People started asking one question over and over again. If someone this close to Jimin believes so strongly in this relationship, what does that say about what's happening behind the scenes? And why does it feel like we've only seen the surface of something much deeper? The more fans talk about it, the clearer one thing becomes. This isn't about proving anything, it's about understanding Jimin's happiness. And according to someone who protects him every day, Jungkook is a huge part of that happiness. And that realization continues to sit heavy in the hearts of fans, making them rethink every moment, every interaction, and every quiet second shared between Jimin and Jungkook. Fans keep replaying old footage with new eyes, not to search for proof, but to understand feeling. Because what this Bodyguard shared wasn't about dates or labels, it was about energy. About how Jimin carries himself when Jungkook is around, about how his shoulders relax, about how his smile comes easier without effort. People close to the situation say the Bodyguard noticed that Jimin laughs more freely with Jungkook. Not the kind of laugh meant for cameras, but the kind that escapes before he can stop it. The kind that comes from comfort. He also reportedly mentioned that during stressful schedules, Jungkook often becomes Jimin's emotional anchor, not by doing anything big or dramatic, but by simply being there, standing close, listening, matching Jimin's pace. And that's something no performance can fake. For fans, this explains why Jimin often looks most himself next to Jungkook. Not as an idol, not as a performer, just as Park Jimin. The Bodyguard's support also shows a level of trust. Staff members don't casually talk about idols' private life unless they genuinely care. And in this case, it feels less like commentary and more like protection of Jimin's emotional well-being. Many fans said this made them emotional, not because it confirmed a ship, but because it confirmed that Jimin is loved, supported, and understood in his real life. And that matters. At the end of the day, the strongest part of the story isn't the word shipper, it's the hope he expressed. A hope that Jimin continues to be happy, that the person who makes him feel safe stays by his side, that his smile doesn't fade with time. Coming from someone who walks beside him every day, that hope feels powerful. It feels sincere. It feels human. And maybe that's why this moment has stayed with fans longer than any rumor ever could. Because sometimes the quiet voices behind the scenes tell the loudest truths. If this story moved you, share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the people closest to Jimin see something special we've felt for years? And if you want more stories like this that dive deeper into moments fans can't stop thinking about, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for what comes next.